One small coin, hiding in plain sight, could completely change someone's life. And the craziest part? Most people will never even know it exists. But collectors who discovered it are still reeling from the shock. It all starts back in 1988, when the United States Mint quietly produced pennies that were different. Not in any flashy way, not the kind of difference you'd notice at a glance. But these pennies held a hidden flaw, a tiny irregularity in the minting process that would make them legendary decades later. Most pennies from that year went into circulation and were forgotten, tossed into jars, or lost in wallets. But a few escaped unnoticed, waiting for the right collector to spot them. One of the first shocking discoveries happened at a small auction in the Midwest. A man had brought in a handful of common 1988 pennies, expecting maybe $10 for the lot. But the auctioneer, a seasoned coin dealer, spotted something almost imperceptible, a tiny die error on one of the coins. He paused, leaned in, and whispered something that stunned everyone in the room. This coin, it could be worth a fortune. Nobody believed him at first. After all, it was just a penny, a coin most Americans treat as disposable. But within hours, bids skyrocketed. By the end of the day, what began as a casual coin sale ended with a hammer price that approached $1 million. Collectors were shocked, dealers were scrambling, and the coin world was buzzing like never before. What made this ordinary-looking Lincoln penny so extraordinary? The answer lies in its subtle, hidden mint mark error. Unlike typical Lincoln cents, the no mint mark 1988 penny exhibits a rare die doubling, faint but unmistakable to trained eyes. The doubling creates an almost ghostly outline around Lincoln's profile, and that tiny anomaly transforms an everyday coin into a multi-million-dollar marvel. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began emerging from private collections. One man, a retiree who had spent decades saving pennies for fun, found an identical coin in a drawer, mixed in with his spare change. He didn't recognize its value at first. He casually took it to a local coin shop, thinking he might get a few bucks. The dealer gasped. This exact penny was one of the rarest circulating Lincoln cents ever minted. By the time the deal closed, that single coin had made him a millionaire. Literally, a life-changing, million-dollar miracle hidden in his pocket change. And it isn't just about luck. There's an unmistakable thrill in identifying this penny yourself. To know you're holding a coin that could be worth over $1 million is the kind of suspense most collectors only dream about. The secret is in the details, the no mint mark, the faint die doubling around Lincoln's profile, and the perfectly preserved copper surface that survived decades in circulation. Many coins are mistaken for ordinary pennies, tossed aside because their rarity isn't immediately obvious. That tiny oversight is exactly why some collectors strike gold while others miss their chance entirely. Every few months, a new discovery reignites the frenzy. Recently, a collection turned up at a flea market. Someone had stored a small handful of 1988 no-mint mark pennies for decades, not realizing the fortune they held. When dealers examined the coins, one in particular made their jaws drop. It had the telltale die doubling, pristine luster, and crisp details. Within minutes, bids began pouring in, and by the end of the week, this forgotten coin had entered the ranks of the million-dollar club. You might be thinking, how do you even know if you have one? The truth is, most collectors miss these clues. Start with the date, 1988. Check the mint mark, none. Then examine Lincoln's profile closely under good lighting or a magnifying glass. Look for faint, doubled outlines along the letters and edges of the design. Many coins appear ordinary until inspected with patience and precision. And beware of common mistakes. Worn coins, cleaned coins, or circulation damage can hide the very errors that make this penny so valuable. Dealers will tell you stories of coins almost thrown away. One woman found a 1988 penny under the couch cushions of her childhood home. She assumed it was ordinary. But once evaluated, that single coin was worth nearly $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and all it took was the patience to examine what others overlooked. Collectors worldwide are still chasing these pennies. Auctions have become intense battles, phone lines buzzing non-stop, as bidders fight for the chance to own a piece of history that holds an almost mythical value. And it isn't just the money. It's the thrill, the story, the idea that one small coin, overlooked for decades, could suddenly rewrite your financial destiny. This isn't fantasy. It's happening right now, all around the United States. Coins once ignored in jars, drawers, and wallets are surfacing, and each discovery reminds collectors. Fortune favors the observant. It's not always about buying expensive collections or chasing rumors. Sometimes, it's about knowing what to look for and spotting the details everyone else misses. The 1988 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is rare, valuable, and potentially life-changing. Check the date. Confirm there is no mint mark. Examine Lincoln's profile for faint doubling. Look for coins in excellent condition. Each step increases your chances of holding a coin that could be worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding it in your hand, knowing that something so small could change everything. That moment, that discovery, is what keeps collectors searching, keeps dealers excited, and keeps this once-hidden treasure alive in the hearts of those who dare. Imagine finding a coin in your pocket change, a coin you've carried for years, forgotten under a pile of receipts, only to discover it's worth over $1 million. That's exactly what happened to one unsuspecting collector in 2019, and the story of the 1996 D. Lincoln penny will shock you to your core. This isn't just any penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. The familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, the date stamped clearly beneath, and the small D mint mark denoting Denver. But what makes this coin extraordinary is a tiny imperfection, a minting anomaly so subtle that millions of collectors have walked past it without a clue. Collectors were stunned when news broke. Auction houses were flooded with inquiries. Dealers, who usually sit behind polished counters waiting for rare coins to appear, were suddenly racing to track down examples of this penny. It's almost impossible to overstate the excitement. Imagine a coin worth the same as a luxury home sitting quietly in your pocket. In 1996, the Denver Mint produced billions of pennies, each one carefully inspected, or so the records say. Somehow, a small number escaped the rigorous quality control with a die defect that caused a dramatic doubling effect. This isn't the typical doubling you might see under a magnifying glass. No, this is a doubling that alters the perception of the date and the mint mark itself, making it appear bolder, almost three-dimensional. And collectors call it the 1996 D Miracle Penny for a reason, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man in Ohio, cleaning out his grandfather's desk drawer, found a small tin labeled Old Pennies. Inside, wrapped in tissue, lay a collection of coins, including a single penny that made his jaw drop. Under magnification, it revealed the unmistakable double die pattern that experts later confirmed could fetch up to $1.5 million at auction. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle overnight. The story of this penny spread like wildfire. Collectors who had spent decades hunting for rarities were floored. Social media posts, collector forums, and YouTube channels exploded with discussions about the coin. Some people couldn't believe it. How could a coin produced in such vast quantities suddenly be so valuable? And the answer is hidden in the tiniest details. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, offering sums that seem unthinkable for a piece of copper barely an inch wide. Why? Because there are fewer than a dozen known examples in pristine condition. Even pennies with minor scratches are valued at hundreds of thousands. But one flawless coin can command the full $1 million price tag. And in a market where scarcity drives value, the 1996 D. Lincoln penny stands at the pinnacle. But here's the twist most collectors miss. The doubling on this penny is not always obvious. You need to know where to look. Inspect the date and the D mint mark carefully. Look for a raised, almost shadowed outline around the numbers and the letter. Hold the coin under angled light, and you may notice the doubled lines shimmering, almost like a tiny optical illusion. This subtle feature is the key to unlocking its incredible value. One collector recounted the moment he realized he had a 1996 D penny in top condition. His hands were shaking as he compared it to reference images online. He couldn't believe a coin that had passed through countless hands, jumbled in rolls at banks, could now be worth $1 million. The emotional weight of that discovery is something every serious collector dreams about, but rarely experiences. Even more astonishing are the auction stories. At one auction, a single 1996 D penny sold for over $1.2 million after a tense bidding war that lasted nearly 20 minutes. The room was silent except for the rapid-fire calls of bidders, each determined to claim this once-in-a-lifetime coin. You could feel the collective anticipation, the tension rising like electricity, as soon as the auctioneer raised his paddle. And when the final hammer fell, the crowd erupted. This tiny copper disc had just transformed someone's life forever. Even slightly worn examples can fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars, which still makes it a life-changing discovery. Imagine rifling through your old coin jar or sorting through a box of coins inherited from a relative, and suddenly realizing you're holding a treasure most people will never see. That's the power of the 1996 D. Lincoln penny. Now, let's be clear. Not every 1996 D penny is valuable. Ordinary examples from circulation are worth only a few cents. But the few with the rare double die pattern, especially those in pristine condition, have transformed the lives of collectors who spotted them. And spotting one requires patience, focus, and a trained eye. Here's how you can identify this coin yourself. First, examine the date carefully. The numbers 1, 9, 9, May 6th appears slightly thicker or shadowed along the edges. Next, look at the D mint mark. It may appear to have a faint twin outline, almost like a whisper of copper behind the main letter. Use a magnifying glass or loupe under angled light to reveal the subtle doubling. Lastly, compare it against verified examples online, paying attention to how collectors describe the exact line formations. Avoid common mistakes. Some pennies may appear doubled because of scratches or dirt, but the authentic double die has a specific pattern and depth. And remember, the condition matters. A penny in mint state, sharp details, no scratches, and preserved luster can sell for the full $1 million figure. Coins with minor wear are still valuable, but the price drops significantly. That's why collectors handle their finds with surgical care, often placing them in protective cases and sending them for professional grading. This coin isn't just copper. It's a story of luck, timing, and historical accident. It's a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hidden in the most ordinary places. Every time a 1996 D. Lincoln penny surfaces, it ignites hope and excitement across the coin-collecting world, because anyone could be holding a fortune without even realizing it. Imagine the possibilities. The drawer in your kitchen, a jar on your shelf, or a forgotten roll of pennies in your wallet could contain a coin that transforms your life. Collectors who stumbled upon this penny didn't plan it, it found them. And now, the chance exists for someone else to experience the same thrill, the same life-changing revelation. This is why the 1996 D. Lincoln penny has captured the imagination of collectors everywhere. It's rare, it's mysterious, and it's valuable beyond belief. And now, you know the secret details that can unlock its potential. Imagine holding a tiny piece of copper in your hand, a coin you've probably overlooked hundreds of times in your pocket change, and realizing it could transform your life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 2015 D. Lincoln penny, a coin that's been hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to spot its hidden secret. It all started in a small minting facility in Philadelphia back in 2015. Most pennies were churned out like clockwork, stamped and polished, with no one paying much attention. But on one day, something extraordinary happened. A tiny, almost invisible error occurred during the minting process, a mistake so subtle that even experienced collectors can overlook it. It wasn't flashy. It didn't scream at you. But for the person who eventually discovered it, this penny would become a $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked when the first of these coins surfaced. At first, dealers thought it was just another coin with a minor blemish. But then came the auctions. One by one, these pennies started fetching astronomical sums, and suddenly, a coin worth 1 cent was suddenly commanding offers that reached over $1 million. The coin world was stunned. Experts couldn't believe that such a small, overlooked piece of currency could create such a frenzy. The mystery of this penny's origin only added to the drama. The 2015 D. Lincoln penny has a distinguishing feature, a misaligned mint mark and a subtle doubling on the date that almost no one noticed. This tiny flaw is exactly what drives its value. But here's the thing, it's incredibly rare. Only a handful of these pennies exist, and even fewer are in perfect condition. Collectors who knew what to look for rushed to dig through pocket change, rolls of pennies, and forgotten coin jars, hoping to uncover this hidden treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired schoolteacher in Ohio found one in a dusty jar in his attic. He didn't know its value at first. He just liked coins. He polished it gently, and when he took it to a local dealer, the reaction was immediate. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it, and suddenly, the quiet, unassuming penny became a story that headlines couldn't ignore. One man's pocket change had turned into $1 million miracle, and all it took was a careful eye and a little bit of luck. Every detail of this coin tells a story. The copper sheen, the precise strike of Lincoln's profile, the faint doubling of the D mint mark. It's all part of what makes it extraordinary. But what's even more fascinating is how the coin slipped past so many people for years. Ordinary collectors walked by it in coin shops, thrift stores, and even their own collections, unaware of its hidden fortune. It's almost as if the coin was waiting for someone patient enough, someone willing to look closer, to claim it. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. When inspecting a 2015 D Lincoln penny, focus on the mint mark first. The D should appear slightly raised and doubled, but not in the obvious, clumsy way that most error coins show. Then, check the date carefully. There's a subtle shift in the numbers, a misalignment that only reveals itself under magnification. It's delicate, almost ghostly, but it's enough to make this penny one of the most sought-after coins of the decade. Dealers can't stop talking about it. Collectors are swapping stories of near misses, pennies they threw away, pennies that sat unnoticed for years. One woman even discovered she had a near-perfect specimen hiding in a jewelry box, wrapped in an envelope she thought was trash. The excitement is palpable. Every time a 2015 D Lincoln penny hits the auction block, it's a reminder that fortune favors the patient, the observant, and the curious, and the story doesn't end there. Some of these pennies have subtle variations, a slightly off-center strike, a faint doubling of Lincoln's ear, a tiny imperfection in the rim. Each of these nuances increases the coin's value and rarity. Experts urge collectors to examine their pennies under bright light, using magnification to spot these secrets. Because missing one tiny detail could mean missing out on a life-changing discovery. But here's the part that will make you check your pockets right now. This coin isn't locked away in some rarefied vault. It could be in circulation. It could be in your drawer. Every day, ordinary people find themselves holding coins worth more than a small car, more than a modest house, more than they could have imagined. The 2015 D Lincoln penny is proof that sometimes life-changing treasure is hiding where we least expect it, in plain sight, quietly waiting to be discovered. Look for the D mint mark carefully. Examine the date for tiny doubling. Check the strike and the rim. Compare it to verified images online. And remember, condition matters. Even a small scratch can make a huge difference. But if you've got a near-perfect example, you're holding a coin that could fetch over $1 million. Imagine that. One little penny in your pocket, a forgotten coin jar, a moment of curiosity, and suddenly, everything changes. Collectors are still hunting. Dealers are still buying. And the stories keep coming. One man traveled across 3 states after spotting a hint of doubling in a coin at a flea market. Another discovered a stash of dozens of these pennies in a box he'd forgotten about, each potentially worth hundreds of thousands, and in one case, millions. The suspense, the excitement, the possibility, it's all part of the world of coin collecting, and the 2015 D Lincoln penny sits at the center of it all. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The thrill of discovery, the heartbreak of missed chances, the astonishment of realizing something ordinary can hold unimaginable value. That's the power of the 2015 D Lincoln penny. Don't overlook it. Examine every detail. Look twice, look thrice. Because sometimes, a single coin isn't just money. It's a ticket to a life you never thought possible. Imagine holding a simple Lincoln penny in your hand, unaware that it could be the key to a life-changing fortune. In fact, this exact type of penny, the 1964 no mint mark Lincoln cent, is now valued at up to $1.7 million. And the craziest part? Most people have walked right past it, not realizing they were staring at a potential $1 million treasure. It all started back in the 1960s, when the U.S. Mint was producing pennies at a rate no one could imagine today. Tens of millions were stamped and shipped across the country, flooding cash registers, piggy banks, and, yes, even couch cushions. But hidden among the ordinary, perfectly struck coins was a tiny fraction that defied all expectations. Pennies with errors, misstrikes, and anomalies so rare that the coin world would later call them miraculous. Collectors were shocked when these pennies resurfaced decades later. One man, a retired postal worker, found a small bag of coins in his attic, long forgotten from his childhood allowance. He had no idea that among them was a 1964 penny without a mint mark, a detail so subtle, yet so powerful, that it could turn ordinary pocket change into $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread through private collectors and auction houses. A 1964 no-mint mark penny, in pristine condition, had sold for a staggering sum. Dealers who thought they knew every rare penny in circulation were scrambling. Everyone wanted to get their hands on what was now being whispered about as the holy grail of Lincoln cents. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Unlike the standard pennies minted in Philadelphia and Denver, these no-mint mark coins carry an incredibly rare error. Experts believe that a small batch was struck without the mint mark entirely due to a misalignment at the Philadelphia Mint, and it's this subtle omission that has collectors willing to pay astronomical sums. Every curve of Lincoln's face, every line in the shield, every faint detail of the date is scrutinized under magnification because perfection adds unimaginable value. Imagine the tension at the auctions. Bidders press their paddles high, hearts pounding, as pennies that once jingled in everyday wallets suddenly commanded six-figure, and then seven-figure, bids. One famous auction saw a 1964 no-mint mark penny go for over $1 million in less than 5 minutes. Witnesses described the room as stunned into silence, the air thick with disbelief and excitement. Every collector knew they had just watched history in the making. Condition matters more than anything. A coin that has even minor scratches, discoloration, or where it can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in value. That's why many million-dollar pennies are found in pristine, near-perfect state, often hidden in collections that have been untouched for decades. One man's dusty old coin jar became the source of unimaginable wealth, simply because he recognized the rarity before it vanished into someone else's hands. First, check for the mint mark. A true 1964 no-mint mark penny will have nothing, absolutely no D for Denver or any other symbol. The details of Lincoln's profile should be crisp, with sharp lines on the hair and the coat. Look carefully at the date. Some of these pennies also show faint doubling, a minor anomaly that magnifies the value exponentially. Hold it up to the light. Does it have an unusual sheen or almost metallic brilliance? That could be your first clue that this coin is extraordinary. Collectors are learning to inspect every angle. Many use magnifying lenses or microscopes, looking for imperfections in the metal that might indicate authenticity. They study the edge for irregularities, the strike for unusual pressure points, and even the reverse for misaligned letters. It's painstaking work, but it's exactly what separates a common penny from one worth $1 million. And remember, mistakes that might seem insignificant to the casual eye are what make this coin priceless. And yet, even after decades of collectors scouring their change, new discoveries keep happening. Coins emerge from forgotten drawers, old coin rolls, and even pockets that haven't been emptied in decades. One woman in Ohio found her 1964 no-mint mark penny while cleaning out her late father's belongings. She had no idea the coin she held was worth over $1 million until an expert confirmed it. That moment changed her life forever, and it could happen to you too. What makes this penny so dramatic is not just its rarity, but its story. Every coin has traveled decades, exchanged hands countless times, witnessed the rise and fall of generations. And yet, one small misstep at the mint, the omission of a single letter, transformed an everyday object into a symbol of unimaginable luck and fortune. That's the magic of coin collecting. Ordinary metal becomes a vessel for dreams, for hope, for the thrill of discovering a hidden treasure, and the attention resets keep coming. Imagine being at a coin show, scanning the tables, thinking you're looking at ordinary change, and suddenly spotting it. That glint, that mint mark omission, that detail that signals wealth beyond imagination. Every collector in the room holds their breath. Dealers lean in. The tension is palpable. And in that moment, a single coin can make million-dollar dreams come true. Start by carefully examining any 1964 pennies you have. Separate those without mint marks. Use proper lighting, magnification, and reference guides from trusted numismatic experts. Avoid common mistakes, like confusing a worn D with a no mint mark coin. Pay attention to doubling, sharpness, and overall condition. Every detail counts. Every detail could be worth hundreds of thousands, or even $1 million. One man's simple habit of checking his loose change changed his life. Another collector's attic find sparked a bidding war at an auction that made headlines. And one ordinary penny, hidden in plain sight for decades, became $1 million symbol of luck, persistence, and discovery. This is why coin collecting is so much more than a hobby. It's a journey into the extraordinary, waiting for those patient and observant enough to see it. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. You could be just minutes away from discovering a coin that changes everything. A coin that proves the impossible is real. A coin that transforms your ordinary pocket change into a legacy. Keep looking. Keep searching. Because the 1964 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's the key to $1 million miracle waiting for the next lucky collector. Imagine that. A tiny coin, smaller than your thumbnail, quietly resting in someone's pocket, suddenly transforming an ordinary life into a story collectors still whisper about today. Most people toss their pennies without a second glance. But this one could make someone a millionaire. Literally.it all started in 1969, a year that seems ordinary when you glance at your pocket change. But hidden in the quiet hum of the Philadelphia Mint, a few pennies slipped through with a mysterious flaw. No mint mark, perfectly ordinary at first glance, yet hiding a secret only a trained eye could detect. What makes this coin so extraordinary is not just its rarity, but the story of its escape from mass production. Some slipped from the mint's presses with doubled dies. Others suffered a mysterious overstrike that no one noticed for decades. Collectors would later call it a miracle, an accident so precise, so improbable, that it turned a common penny into $1 million treasure. One collector stumbled upon this miracle purely by chance. He wasn't hunting for riches. He was emptying an old drawer, tossing coins into a jar for counting. Among the dull copper coins, one glinted differently. Its surface was off, a subtle doubling on Lincoln's profile, almost imperceptible unless you knew exactly what to look for. He didn't believe it at first. Could a single penny, 1 cent, really be worth more than a small house? Dealers were shocked when he took it to auction. The coin didn't just sell, it ignited a frenzy. Bidders pushed each other higher, each willing to gamble tens of thousands for a shot at holding history in their hand. When the hammer finally fell, the amount stunned everyone. Nearly $1 million for a coin that had been forgotten for over 50 years. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread like wildfire. Hobbyists rushed to check their drawers, their wallets, even their cars. Experts issued warnings. Many of the coins being offered were fakes or misidentified. The slightest detail could mean the difference between owning $1 million piece of history and holding an ordinary penny. Some collectors examined thousands of coins in a single day, magnifying glasses and loupes pressed to each surface, searching for that elusive mark. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On the 1969 no mint mark penny, Lincoln's head appears slightly doubled in certain areas, while the date itself can show a faint shadow, almost as if the coin remembers its own secret history. The lettering is sharper than a normal strike, giving it an almost three-dimensional look. These are subtle signs, invisible to the untrained eye, but screaming rarity to a collector who knows the story. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins before word spreads even further, creating bidding wars that can skyrocket prices in a matter of minutes. And the stories of discovery are just as unbelievable as the coin itself. One man found 2 of them in a box of coins he bought at a garage sale for a few dollars. Another discovered one tucked into the pages of a decades-old diary. In each case, the owners had no idea what they held until they took a closer look, proving that million-dollar treasures often hide in plain sight. The emotions run wild in these moments. Shock, Disbelief. Joy. The realization that something you touched every day without thought could suddenly change your life forever. Collectors have spent decades studying this penny. Books and forums are filled with photographs and debates, each attempting to capture the subtle variations that make the coin unique. And while some mistakes in coin minting are common, the 1969 no-mint mark penny with this double die error remains one of the rarest. It's as if history conspired to preserve a secret that only those lucky enough to notice would ever uncover if you're searching for it. Here's what you need to know. First, check the date closely. Look for any doubling along the numbers, particularly the 1 and 6. Examine Lincoln's profile with a magnifying glass. The lines around his jaw and cheek should appear slightly raised or doubled. Compare the letters in Liberty and I in God We Trust. The doubling often shows subtly in the B and R of Liberty. Be careful. Many coins appear similar, but only the true error coin carries this exact configuration. Hold it under different angles of light. The way shadows catch the doubled lines can make the difference between an ordinary penny and a piece of history. Many collectors make mistakes in identification. Some are fooled by cleaning or polishing, which can mask the doubling. Others assume that any 1969 penny without a mint mark is valuable, but the truth is far more specific. The coin must match precise characteristics documented by experts. One wrong assessment, and the coin's value drops from millions to pennies in seconds. That's why patience, knowledge, and careful observation are your best allies. Imagine holding this penny in your hand. You feel the copper, the subtle weight, and the faint imperfections that speak volumes. You're touching decades of history, a coin that survived mass production, neglect, and obscurity to emerge as one of the most sought-after treasures in the coin world. And remember, every time you examine a coin, you're not just counting copper. You could be counting the keys to a million-dollar miracle. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A single glance, a careful touch, and a little knowledge could turn your ordinary pocket change into something extraordinary. The 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's proof that hidden treasures exist all around us, waiting for someone curious enough to discover them. It's a story of chance, timing, and history, all wrapped up in a tiny piece of metal. For collectors, it's the ultimate dream. For those who never check, it's the opportunity of a lifetime slipping quietly by. Imagine holding a simple Lincoln penny in your hand, thinking it's just another piece of pocket change, only to discover it hides a fortune beyond your wildest dreams. This isn't a story about imagination. It's real, and it's happening right now. Collectors are shocked. Dealers are scrambling. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it all started with a single, overlooked penny minted in 1979 at the Denver Mint. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny seems ordinary at first glance, but hidden within its copper face is a secret few people know. A small, almost invisible minting error changed everything. This penny doesn't just carry Lincoln's image. It carries a story of mistakes, rarity, and fortune that could turn an ordinary collection into a treasure trove. Most people pass by these coins every day, unaware that the difference between a few cents and $1 million is a microscopic detail no one can see without knowing exactly what to look for. Back in the late 1970s, the U.S. Mint was producing pennies in massive quantities. Millions of these coins flooded circulation, meant for everyday transactions. But amid the uniformity, a handful emerged with a subtle yet powerful flaw: a double die error on the reverse, a tiny shift in the lettering that to the untrained eye looks invisible. Collectors were stunned when these coins began appearing at auctions. Suddenly, something worth mere pennies became a $1 million sensation. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, just like you, found a 1979 D. Lincoln penny in a forgotten jar of change. He didn't notice anything extraordinary at first. He bought his groceries, tipped his barista, and went on with his day. But months later, when he casually brought the penny to a local coin dealer, the reaction changed his life forever. Dealers leaned in, eyes widening. They whispered the words that would forever alter his reality. This is worth over $1 million. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. It's not about the wear, not about the shine, not even about the year. It's about the subtle doubling on the letters D and V are stamped on the coin's reverse. The doubling is faint, almost ghostly, but for those who know what to look for, it transforms an ordinary penny into a collector's dream. Every auction now features fervent bidding wars whenever one of these coins appears. Some sell for tens of thousands. Others, rare finds like this, break the $1 million mark. Imagine being in the room as this penny went under the hammer. The room was silent, everyone holding their breath, the tension so thick you could feel it in the air. When the gavel finally fell, the winning bidder's eyes nearly popped out of their head. A penny that had once jingled in someone's pocket became $1 million miracle in the blink of an eye. Stories like this have turned everyday collectors into legends overnight. But the story doesn't stop there. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 1979 D pennies they can find, and they're paying insane prices for coins that match this era. A single misstep, a small overlook, and a collector could walk away thinking they own nothing more than a worthless penny, when in reality, they're sitting on the coin of a lifetime. One small detail, one subtle minting error, could define the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Here's where it gets even more dramatic. Some coins, mistakenly thought to have the error, turn out to be false alarms. Collectors have been burned before, investing thousands only to find out the doubling was mere wear or environmental damage. That's why knowing exactly what to look for is crucial. The true 1979 D $1 million penny has a crisp, faint doubling on the D mint mark and the letters on the reverse, a precise alignment that's impossible to replicate without the minting anomaly. Every line, every ridge must be examined under a magnifying glass. No shortcuts, no guesses. This is where ordinary collectors become million-dollar hunters. One woman, for example, discovered 1979 D pennies in her change jar while cleaning out her old coin collection. 2 were regular pennies, but the third, matched the exact error pattern collectors dream of. She couldn't believe her eyes. The coin was authenticated and graded, and a week later, she became a $1 million success story. Stories like hers are more common than people think, but most will never know the treasure hiding in their pockets because they simply don't look closely enough. It's not just a coin. It's hope. It's the reminder that something incredible could be hiding in the most mundane places. That jar of pennies on your counter, that loose change in your car, that coin you toss aside every day. It could be a life-altering fortune. $1 million dreams are real, and the 1979 D Lincoln penny proves it. Ordinary objects, ordinary lives, transformed in an instant by something almost invisible. First, look for the D mint mark, then examine the reverse letters for a doubled die effect. The key letters are T and on, 1 cent, and D and VR for the mint mark. The doubling is subtle but consistent across the true $1 million pennies. Avoid coins where the doubling looks uneven, worn, or artificially enhanced. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe, and if in doubt, get it authenticated. Precision matters. One tiny misstep could mean the difference between a regular penny and a $1 million masterpiece. Collectors are on high alert. Every jar, every drawer, every couch cushion could hold the next big discovery. Dealers can't get enough. Auctions are flooded, and the stories keep piling up. Proof that the legend of the 1979 D Lincoln penny is alive and thriving. This coin isn't just history. It's a beacon for anyone willing to look a little closer. A story that can change lives overnight, and a treasure hiding in plain sight.